Joining us this wet evening, May 28th, 2025. We read a statement every evening for part of the qualifications of this chair. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff of the commission, and any consultants used are involved with the town and are hereby made part of each and every application heard tonight. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the commission are also made part of each and every application. Each application heard tonight is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. The Historic District Design Guidelines have been adopted by the town of Sykesville in accordance with Article 6B 8.06A of the Maryland Code and follow the recommendations of the United States Secretary of the Interior. The Sykesville Historic District Commission follows Robert's Rule of Order with the exception that the chairperson votes. So as Kevin said this evening, we do not have a quorum to vote, but we will be running through the agenda. And obviously the first agenda item we will skip over, minutes from 2023, since we do not have a quorum. The first agenda item this evening, which I do not, well, actually, is 2025-07 for replacement porch of stairs at 7557 Main Street.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. So the applicant here, they're requesting a modification to a previously approved application in order to allow them to replace the existing front porch stairs instead of performing repairs that were initially approved. So back in November 2024, they got approval to do some repairs and apply some bluestone caps to the stairs for some safety purposes and to preserve the underlying bricks. But after having a mason inspect the stairs, it was determined that the deterioration was too great for repair, so now they've come back and asked for permission to replace the steps instead. So it was suggested that they can either, by the mason, that they can either replace the steps in kind with standard brick or replace with red brick pavers for some added longevity and a smoother walking surface. Regarding the guidelines, so for front porches and decks, the following guidance applies. So it says, if materials and elements are too severely deteriorated to repair, they should be replaced with new ones that closely resemble the original in material, size, shape, color, and other distinguishing features. And then it also recommends using materials that match the original, especially for historic porches or contributing buildings, which this is. Original stone or brick should not be replaced with parched concrete masonry units. So with that, so the HGC is being asked to determine if a replacement of the front brick staircase is acceptable and then provide some guidance on the materials to be used. Based on what the guidelines state, staff does recommend approval of the request and with using in-kind materials to replace the existing brick. There's a suggested motion in the staff report as well. If the commission agrees with that, I guess we won't be making a motion this evening, but if we wanted to provide some feedback for the applicant so that they have some direction on how they can move forward, would be great.
So the bluestone caps are no longer going to be used?
No.
It's just going to be brick again, right?
Yeah, the mason looked at it, he said, you really don't want to do that. It really needs to be rebuilt to be safe. And I think what his idea was those pavers are safer than the choppy bricks. But
is there examples or sizes of the brick or the pavers in the application?
The application didn't, so it's just what's in here.
Did the mason give any indication of that, whether the pavers would be similarly sized to the brick or?
I'm sorry, I didn't meet with the mason.
Okay.
My son
That's
did.
okay.
He's not able to be here tonight, so I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I would think if it looks substantially similar,
I would think,
for safety.
how old are the brick steps there now?
I could, yeah. Do you know the age of the current steps by chance,
I would
approximately?
assume they're the original ones
Yeah.
when the house was built.
And how old's the home?
I think it was built in 1932, based on the information we have. It says 1932.
So if it was built in 1932 and it's lasted to 2024, 25 with brick, rebuilding it with brick should last just as long.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, they were just talking about a safety thing. If you walk those steps, they're narrow and that was my understanding.
You mean for depth?
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Yeah, for tread depth.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know our brick steps are two bricks deep, but ours are also very deep. They're almost too deep. So, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I'm not sure if you're gonna talk to your mason, but is there accommodation where he can make the steps safer with depth and riser height using brick in lieu of pavers? Is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, without seeing what pavers you're utilizing, it's kind of hard to determine.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, we know brick is what was there to replace in kind, so I think we're open to replacing in kind, and if it has to be accommodated to make it safer with the tread depth, we can accommodate that, as Brian was saying, or even the riser depth, because sometimes that's too shallow as well, so.
Do they have pavers that look like bricks? Because I think that was kind of what TJ was saying, my son was saying.
It's probably stamped concrete that looks like brick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know the cover brick that I've seen, the problem with that is that they're not nearly as substantial, they'll crack.
You, like the thin brick, you mean like the facade brick almost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a
Well,
full depth modular brick.
I mean, they're okay when you do it as surface wall, but
Yeah.
when you're using it as a stair,
Yeah, I want to
I
use
think
that
that would
brick.
be not very, very, very.
They look like common modular brick. Well, I guess, since we're not gonna rule on this evening, if you can get some more information on the pavers, even some pictures and some sizes of the pavers for the next meeting. And then talk to the contractor about make accommodations to make it safer based off of standard brick. And then we can discuss it in the next meeting. Does that sound right to you guys?
I think so. So it's just hard to know without.
Yeah, without seeing it, it's kind of hard to,
I totally understand.
but,
Yeah, definitely want to go with safety though.
and you want
Well, it
them,
is very steep, and
Mhm.
that's why I've walked those stairs for years, and they're steep.
I understand.
okay. All right, I'm sorry we couldn't rule on that this evening.
Thank you, though.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. All right, moving on to agenda, well, thank you for coming in this evening.
She's also on the next one as well.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
The next one
Yeah.
also.
2025-08 for the exterior garage modifications for the commercial conversion at 7557 Main Street.
Yeah, so in this case, the applicant's requesting approval for some exterior modifications to their garage at 7557 Main Street to accommodate an expansion of a commercial use that currently exists on the first floor of the primary structure into the garage space, and then the commercial use will be utilizing both then the primary structure and the garage. So what they want to do is just make it a usable space. And in order to accommodate the conversion, they're requesting approval to replace the existing garage doors that are seen here with permanent walls, including some new windows and an entry door as well. So the HCC guidelines are pretty limited on their guidance to modifications to accessory buildings, including garages. The only relevant section really is that existing historic accessory building character and features must be repaired or replaced in kind. Obviously, they're not looking for a repair or replacement here. It's a little bit different. But specifically, what they've requested for is the door is going to be a 36 by 80 inch unfinished wooden door with rectangular windows on the top half, and then the windows are 29 and 5/8 by 47 and 7/8 clad wood window or double hung windows. So there's examples of both in the application. Again, because there are new features that's going to be added to the structure rather than a replacement or repair, I thought it'd be useful to look at actually the new construction material guidelines in this case. So basically what that says is that the materials used for walls, windows, roof details, and any other prominent elements of new construction should maintain those of the building in its immediate environment. In areas where most of the buildings in a block use similar materials, The new building should use the same type, and in blocks where very diverse materials are prevalent, the new construction may choose from a much broader range of materials. And then regarding the actual wall itself, the application didn't specifically mention what material would be used for that. But with that being said, so the HTC is just being asked to determine if the requested modification to the garage exterior is appropriate or offer some alternative suggestions. Staff is comfortable with the requested changes with the intention of supporting the expansion of the existing business into that space, obviously with the deferral to the HTC regarding the appropriateness of the proposed materials as well as whatever materials will be used for the wall replacement. Again, there's a suggested motion, but given the lack of a quorum, we can skip over that. So yeah. So again, it's to basically enable this space to be turned in, change from essentially what's just storage at the moment into an actual usable space for an existing tenant that they have.
The thing that got sent to me had the windows.
Yeah. So these are the proposed windows.
So I don't see any divided light in them. They look like 1/1s.
Do you know, would it be so that's 1/1, meaning it's just a single pane of glass, one large pane? Would it be that or the divided light where it looks like there's 9 smaller panes? Do you know?
I'm sorry.
Sorry to ask the hardball questions.
I'm doing the best I can last minute here, but,
Understood. Like Chad said
terribly last
earlier,
minute.
we can't
It
vote on it
does
tonight
look
anyway.
in this picture that it has the dividers.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
top.
this picture shows the divided light, but I think this was more so just for some illustrative purposes, was just a mock-up. Whereas this is specifically what I think they intend to use.
Is the entrance going to be used as the main entrance for the business?
There would be 2 entrances for the business. It would be the same tenant who uses the doorway in the aisle.
Yeah.
What's that called?
Yeah.
Yeah, the little alleyway between Max
Alleyway.
and.
So it's the same tenant. And then she would use that spot too, because there's a door coming out of the back of that basement room,
Mm-hmm.
and then a door going in on the back side into that building.
I'm just wondering, are you going to have a request for future signage there at any point?
He did say
Because
something
to me-
about,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, an extra heating unit in the outside area. Did he talk to you about that?
The application mentions mini split, but there was nothing about signage. There is a sign hanger above the door in
Oh,
the
yeah.
alley. There's just no sign at the moment.
I would just assume that this is more prevalent to the parking,
Right.
and that they're going to want to utilize that for signage.
Oh, you're thinking a single pane for the door so they can have space to put a sign on the door.
Or I'm not even thinking that. I'm just wondering where are they going to hang a sign somewhere?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't part of the discussion that I had with the applicants.
Well, that's a good question.
This point is mostly just for the this conversion, because I think right now the problem is the only way to get into that building besides the garage doors is you have to go into the current business, walk out the back door, and then back into the other door of this, whereas this will allow you just to enter and exit this building just from the parking lot.
We don't have a picture of the door that currently exists in the alley, but it might be informative to know the nature of the character of that door
Can we see that on
in
Google
terms
Maps?
of duplicating it to the back.
Not sure if that shows up on Google Maps.
That might have been in a previous,
With the windows, I mean, there's houses up and down the historic district that some have single light over single light. Mine does. Others have 9/9, 6/6. So I
Well,
don't know
I would have to look at the existing building and see what
Yeah.
matches the character of the existing structure.
It looked like at the top they had 3
3 over
over
1.
1, yeah. Which at that point, maybe 1/1 looks more in tune than 6/6 or 9/9, whatever it was.
See if Kevin can bring up an image. And I would think that the in-framing for that garage door should be of wood nature.
Yeah,
I think it says that. If you go back to the door, it says it's gonna be a wood door.
Yeah, the door,
The
but
doors would, but the
Oh, the frame.
the framing
yeah,
for the
the wall.
windows.
Right.
yeah, I think the image kind of shows it looking like a wood sort of material, but that can certainly be part of any guidance that's given as to, not sure if we can see in the alley.
What are those windows there on the first floor?
I think you have to go down a few steps to go.
Yeah, it's to the right of that. no,
They're
it's
2 over
steps.
1
Yeah,
and they're
it
3
goes
over
down a
1.
little bit back and-
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the Google Maps view won't.
I don't think we
doesn't
can
go
get down the
go
alley
there.
Yeah, I wanted you.
Mm.
There's these
Yes.
windows.
oh, those are 4 over 1?
Yeah.
So they're all different, 2, 3, and 4 over 1.
Well, the garage was added later.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, so it sounds like we need a little bit more information on that one too.
Okay, and what do you want specifically?
Well, if you can find out from your son if they're gonna have signage added to this,
Okay,
the window configuration.
Sorry, it starts at 7, huh?
Perfect timing.
The window configuration we wanted to know. We can actually roll now. We can vote. Do we go back now?
We can if you guys want to. It's up
Well, let's
to
just stay on this one since we have a quorum
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So this garage here, they want to convert,
Yeah.
infill the doors. Well, we still need information on it though. We're asking
Yeah,
for it.
I mean, we
So
need to.
my guess would be this is the window that they intend to use. So it's because that's I think this image was just more so for illustrative purposes, just to kind of get an idea of what the layout's going to be. But if you prefer different windows, yeah, obviously. But I think these are the windows they intend to use.
So we looked at the Google Earth and there's 2 over 1s, there's 3 over 1s, and there's 4 over 1s in this building. And so right now they're showing 1 over 1 right now on the backside. So we're thinking contextually it should probably have some iteration of.
You mean on that rendering that?
Yeah, on that rendering.
Yeah. So like I said, this is showing.
Since there's a 3 over 1 above it, it might,
Yeah,
that
these-
look might be just a
Yeah, these are
continuous 3 over 1.
I don't even know, are they available in the?
Or in wood?
I don't know what the configuration. What's the
Right.
manufacturer of this window? Does it say?
I thought it said gelled one.
Gelman?
These.
No, it's Anderson's.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
Anderson?
Anderson.
I don't think
And the
Anderson.
door was gelled. I mean, that's a orange big box store screenshot. so-
Yeah.
Without calling anyone out.
No free ads.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can still give our guidance on what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be this manufacturer.
Right. Yeah, it would be helpful, I think, like Richard said, to match or to somehow approximate those upper windows, but I don't know how available they'll be.
This is also behind UW Bex in that parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a,
Bex is right here. So this is what it currently looks like.
So we're not even really seeing that from anywhere.
I mean,
Although
you'll,
that's not how invisible space,
Yeah.
because it's right
In
off
the
the
parking lot.
parking
It's
lot.
in the parking lot.
I mean, I would think a 1 over 1 probably is less combative than like the 6 over 6 pictured because,
Yeah.
you know,
Or even if it was 2 over 1.
yeah.
So I think our guidance is that we're looking for some sort of divided, it's called light, the top window, with some sort of mullion or divider in between, either 2 over 1 or 3 over 1, depending on the manufacturer and who you use. We obviously want a wood cased window for this application. The framing around the window, we're looking for wood. The door's wood already. And then just let your son know if there's going to be additional signage, it would be a separate application. Because we are not approving any signage at this point.
so does this approval
Do you wanna make a-
depend on the signage?
No.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, the signage he just wanted to make sure that if you guys do want to put a sign out here, that would be a separate application. But
Okay, but you can approve this without the signage?
Right,
correct.
Yeah. So do we wanna make a motion on that, or would you prefer to come back next month?
I'd hate to hold it up for
Yeah.
a divided light window type, so like, we can give a recommendation either 2/1 or 3/1.
Yeah, whatever they would, whatever.
And whatever is available,
Yeah,
I think would be, do you guys agree?
Yeah.
I think we
Or
could
wood
do
two
that.
over one or wood three over one.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be a 2/1. I think they'll find.
Right.
okay, and then,
I mean,
Sorry.
you could email Kevin.
I don't know much about windows, but can you get this low E-glass in the 2/1 and the 3/1?
All windows come in low E
They
glass.
do, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think you could probably kind of go between if there's any
yeah, absolutely.
questions.
Yeah,
that
if there's
way-
any questions about what,
'cause, yeah, we don't want to hold
what
this
they're
up another
requiring
month.
of you, yeah, I can talk to you, or I can talk to TJ and make sure that, you know, you guys are complying with the approval, if they want to offer an approval, just to make sure everything's good, because I don't think they want to hold you up another month if we can avoid
That
it.
would be great. I think Julie's very anxious.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, is there a motion?
What was the application?
This is 2027-08.
2025-08.
Excuse me, 2025.
2508.
Make a motion to conditionally approve application 2025-08 with the recommendation that you try to use either a 2 divided light up or over 1 single light, or 3 divided light over 1 single light window. And what else do we have? Wood
Oh,
framing.
Yeah, all the infill framing underneath the windows should be wood of nature.
Yeah.
Anything that infills that is garage door opening should be of wood nature. That's it for that one. Anything else?
And then the door's all good?
And the door
Doors.
frame as well.
Yeah, door frame. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna backstep real quickly to application 2025-07, since somebody showed up.
Yeah,
Um,
saw this.
she wants to rebuild the steps. There's 2 options available, using pavers or using original brick. The issue is that she was saying that the contractor is saying that it would be safer to use pavers because of the shallowness of the steps and stuff, but we're saying we're open to using brick and making modifications to adjust the tread depth, the riser height, whatever's necessary to make it work. I don't necessarily think, we don't know what the pavers are. We're thinking they're probably stamped concrete that look like bricks, which is something we generally don't want to use. And without seeing them, I think I'd like to lean towards the way of using modular brick in some sort of adjustments to the stairs that makes them safe for the resident, but keeps the historic character of what is original.
So saying use brick but allow for modification of the depth and the height.
Yeah,
for
I mean, it's
safety.
fine. I mean, it's,
So this is one we've already done before, and they were doing bluestone.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
right.
Is this in bluestone now, or they're doing
No.
all brick?
Yeah,
All
so,
brick.
so when the mason looked at it, he determined that, he basically said that, you know, the repair, they need to be replaced essentially. He said repairing them wouldn't really solve anything, they're too far gone.
it was built in 1930 something, so I mean, it's gonna last. So, all right, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, give me the number.
2025-07.
07?
Yeah.
07.
Make a motion for 2025-07 to use original brick, not the paver brick suggestion, and to reconfigure step as needed for safety, and keep it as close to the original as possible.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Now I can say thank you for coming in this evening.
And I'll follow up with you and TJ, yeah, with a letter, clarifying everything and
I'm
letting.
just a warm body.
No, of course. No, thank you for coming, and yeah, I'll follow up with TJ so everyone's on the same page, and you guys can get rolling on your project here.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thanks for coming in. All right, next agenda item. Drum roll, please. 2025-09, a commercial addition to the French Twist Cafe at 732 Oklahoma Avenue. Kevin?
On my staff report. There we go. So the applicant's here, they've submitted an application along with an illustration, it's up on the screen, showing a proposed addition to the rear of the French Twist Cafe building. Again, this addition is also intended to allow for some additional commercial space, in particular some seating and kitchen space to accommodate some larger crowds. So HEC approval is being asked for a 27 by 16 foot addition in the rear of the building, which will also include an outdoor staircase and terraces as well on top of the addition. So when adding to historic buildings, the HEC guidelines refer to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and treatment of historic properties. If you recall back to the Sykesville Station application where there's a long discussion about this, but basically it says that new additions should be constructed in a way that doesn't destroy the historic materials, features, or spatial relationships that characterize the property. And it should be differentiated from the old while still being compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion. It also says that new additions should be undertaken in a way that in the future, if removed, the essential form and integrity of the historic property is unimpaired. So the applicant did explain that they intend to comply with both of those points. One, by ensuring construction doesn't compromise the essential form and integrity of the existing building, and then also designing the addition so that it is not as wide as the original structure in hopes of creating a visual offset that allows for the new construction to be differentiated from the original building. And then along with those points, all the materials for the requested items need to be consistent with the requirements of the HCC guidelines. So when considering these materials, the guidelines say that new construction should respect the location, design, materials, and other character defining elements of the contributing buildings, as well as the character of the contributing landscape and public spaces. And then all materials used for new construction should maintain those of the building and its immediate environment. In areas where most of the buildings in a block use similar materials, the new building should use the same type, and then in blocks with diverse materials are prevalent, the new construction may choose from a much broader range of materials. And then I provided a quick overview of the materials that they're proposing. So that for the siding, the applicant proposed wood siding that matches what is currently existing on the building. And the staircase and terrace, so the terrace platform railing and staircase will all be constructed from pressure-treated lumber and historically appropriate materials and details that align with the historic character of the building, including wood, natural materials, and colors are preferred when building porches or decks in the historic district. And then the windows, the applicant said that they're actually going to reuse the existing windows on the building and just pull them out to put them on the outside of the addition, because the addition is going to cover what is where the windows are currently housed. So with the information provided, the applicants do show an intention to comply with the standards for rehabilitation and treatment of historic properties, both by using materials that are compatible with the historic building and also making sure that the new and old parts of the structure can be differentiated. They also intend to construct the addition so it may be removed in the future without harming the essential form and integrity of the historic structure, and all materials proposed for the requested items seem to be appropriate based on the town's HCC guidelines. So with that, the commission's being asked if the requested addition is appropriate as presented, or to suggest some alternative actions. Staff has no concerns with the request in order to accommodate the growth of the French Twist Cafe business, and does recommend approval. And there's a suggested motion in the staff report if the commission agrees. And again, there's this mock-up here showing what the addition is intended to look like, and then obviously some existing condition photos showing.
Can you leave that up?
Yep, that it's going to, where the area is going to extend back into. And then we have folks here this evening to
This
answer
is
some
a
questions.
preliminary question. This was an arrangement that came about as a result of the pandemic.
Yes.
And I know there was issues around losing parking places and all that. This has gone through zoning and the place where the.
So what happened is when the town's gonna do the streetscape, they're gonna take all 6 parking spots away. And they were gonna make it one big brick patio with no parking. And we said, well, if you're gonna do that, don't spend the money. We'd like to go and use 4 of the 6 parking spots. which we own all of them in fee simple. The town does not own these parking spots. We do. So we said, well, we'll go ahead and use 4 of the 6 for the addition. The other 2 will be for seating for the town. They'll do the brick pavers, whatever they want, and they'll do that in phase 2.
And to build on that as well, when this building got moved to its current location, there was a Board of Zoning Appeals hearing for setbacks and parking, and it actually got approved with no required setbacks and no required parking to be associated with the building. And like Fred had mentioned, those parking spaces are actually on the property that is associated with that building. So everything basically from where the little curve is right here to the building is all one parcel associated with this building, under their ownership. So the town doesn't own those parking spaces like they do the remainder of the lot.
So what is the plan for the portion of the building that's gonna be covered? Is that wall gonna be ripped out and the window openings? Or are you just gonna?
Covered in the back?
No.
Where you're covering the wall, you're putting the addition,
Like
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
what's gonna divide the
Yeah,
addition
what
from
we were gonna
the,
do is take the 2/2 window outside, make that a door, and that'll go into a flat with a little slight pitch, rooftop dining, and then we're gonna keep all the siding original, and we're gonna leave it there.
No, I'm talking about
But
the first
on
floor.
on the first floor?
Yeah, we're gonna leave that siding there.
But you're gonna just make those windows door openings,
Yes,
both of them?
yes.
Okay. But you're just gonna leave the configuration with the punched openings as they are separate?
Correct.
Make them
We're not
longer?
gonna change any of that,
Wow.
because that way, if we wanna change it back, we can. We're gonna go back to the original if that ever happens, and we're not gonna change the location. The windows, wherever a window is, will either stay a window or become a door.
Okay. Can you only, okay.
I have a question now.
Mhm.
So inside the French, so the 2 windows I know will go in the back, but is it gonna be possible to open it a little bit more than the sides?
Yeah, that's interior. So
Okay,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
interior, okay.
yeah, that's interior.
Okay.
So the idea would be that the kitchen would move into the new space?
Well, it would be, I know you know the French Swiss because you come.
Mhm.
So when you come in, right now the counter is the espresso machine and then the crepes are here. What I want is to open up this on the left and move the espresso more towards the right, so people can, instead of being in line, when there's a long line, they go up the steps, and
Right.
we don't want them on the steps because it's dangerous. So it's I want to be able to create a better flow, and having 2 places to be ordering towards the back, and then the kitchen will be like a square basically.
So if you want to get just coffee, you'll be able to go to one line, and if you want crepes, you'll be able to go to another line. Because right now, it's
To
the
let
point where
people,
people are leaving because they can't get served fast.
Yeah.
and people are standing on the stairs. And since there is only one exit from upstairs, which is the stairs inside, now there will be 2 exits, which is safer to be able to exit from outside, from the balcony, the terrace.
But your occupancy count's really low for the second floor. It's under 50, right? So you only need
Yeah,
one means
because
of
there's
egress.
only one exit. Now, once that gets to 2 exits, the fire marshal has to come back out, and they'll assign occupancy load. We're not sure what that'll be.
Well, it's gonna be
because-
assembly.
Yeah, what the assembly's gonna be, they'll determine that. But we will have 2 ingresses and egresses, because they don't count the kitchen egress and ingress right now, they only count 1.
Yeah.
So right now, we're limited to 49 or below.
so a concern that I have is the guidelines are very distinct that, anything in the public right of way, there shouldn't be a deck or a porch added on. You know, it does allow for it in the rear of a building, but it also notes not in a public right of way.
Well, our
So I
first
have a
choice
little
was-
concern with that.
Our first choice is to go into the roof system and have covered dining, which would be nicer, because people could be out there in the middle of the summer and eat and not have the sun beating down on them. But if we do that, it's gonna be damn near impossible to take that building back to the original configuration, because now we're messing with their joists, the roof line. So we said, let's leave that all alone and basically just build a shed, for lack of better words, on the back of that building that can be taken off.
You could overframe it,
And that's why we did it that way.
but you could overframe it and still maintain the roof line.
Yeah, we could, but we didn't want to jump into that roof line at all, we wanted to leave that like it is.
Didn't you say that they were eliminating a certain amount of parking spots and phase 2 is gonna have pavers off the back of that?
So originally, the plan said, the town said that we're gonna have, we're gonna take all 6 parking spots away
Right,
and put pavers in for all 6.
right,
And that's when we said, well, we went to talk to Joe and said, well, we're thinking about doing this addition, we haven't for a while.
right.
We better expedite this because it would be a sin to have the town, although it's granted, why has spend money to put pavers in and then 6 months later, let's take the pavers back out and put an additional.
Right.
Let's do it all now before the pavers go in.
But where that stairs coming down to will eventually be a paver,
Yeah, that's all, it's gonna come down to pavers.
so it won't be exiting into a public right of way.
It will be very narrow though, it's only gonna be,
I mean, the whole parking lot's public right of way,
yeah.
but like,
Yeah, but
it's
if they're
surrounded
doing
by
it-
parking lot.
If they're doing a curb with a paver bed,
I don't know.
That'll
connected
come
to the
down, that'll be
sidewalk.
a 42-inch wide stairwell coming down to a paver, but that paver part opens up to be 10 feet wide.
That's what I'm.
It's visible from public right of way, it's not
That's your
exiting
problem.
to.
You're not thinking of the safety of the.
No, it has, the guidelines aren't
You're
about
just
the
thinking about
safety.
visibility
Yeah,
of
the
this.
guidelines are no decks or porches added in the public right of way.
Right.
It also states about, what Kevin just read is about the differential between the old and the new. And I'm struggling with the differential aspect, because it doesn't look like you're really separating it in any, like, meaningful way from the existing design of the building. Like, I understand it's like offset, like by a foot or something on that right-hand side, but,
And we could put that in different material like hardy board that would differentiate it, but we were thinking German lap, which is actually more expensive, but it would tie into the historic district more. But we could tie it in with hardy board and it would be differentiated a whole lot more, but it's not gonna be, obviously it didn't have hardy board back 110 years ago. So we'll go, either way you guys wanna go, we'll go that way.
I mean, when we talked about Sykesville Station, we talked about the material choices on that one, we had him differentiated on that one, so that,
Yeah, well, they were trying to present 5 different
yeah.
Yeah,
materials in a moment.
yeah, that was a lot more about the number of materials than anything.
In the exterior, we'll build it however you all suggest that we build it, doesn't matter to us.
What's the depth of that addition?
16 out.
16 people,
And what's the depth of the building as it exists, do you know?
28, I believe,
28, so
28.
it's a little over half. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, most additions, when I look at older buildings, they typically did an L straight off the back, but this configuration obviously makes more sense for a lot of reasons for the business and the property.
Yes, it would.
What is
It
the,
is a nightmare.
let's just, tell me more about the stair and the railing configuration, what is it constructed of,
Well, we have to build it with 42 inch because it's considered commercial.
material-wise?
Oh, material treated.
PT,
Lumber.
And that porch is gonna be built to sustain
Drainage, is it TPO, and then you're
Either
doing,
drainage or weight load.
weight
Oh,
load.
weight, yeah. Carroll County's already told us in no uncertain terms, we've got to manufacture that too. So instead of 16-inch on the center, we'll probably go with 12-inch on the center, beef it up a little bit because it's got to carry the load for the capacity. But that's all per Carroll County. So it's got to be pretty beefy when we build it.
and what is it, TPO with a drainage system on top? How are you doing the drainage, cause it's a flat roof?
It's going to have a slight fall.
Scupper, or
Pardon me?
you're gonna scupper it to a drain somewhere,
Yeah, yes we are.
and you're doing TPO with like a pressure-treated deck on top of it?
It's going to be, actually be, the flooring will be, they put that material on OSB. Believe it or not, you would think OSB they would never use, but they wanted a brand new OSB, and they put that waterproof, they waterproof it, and then they put the surface on it,
Traffic coating or something?
yes.
I have a hard time getting past the deck.
I have a hard time with a couple things. Like,
Yeah,
can you zoom in on what's the height that it has on that dimension on the left-hand side? elevation.
It's 12.5.
12 and a half, so you're gonna use 16-inch TJIs probably, or 2x10s, 2x12s.
Thinking probably 2x12s. I mean, we haven't designed that yet, till we get, you know, obviously your permission, but we're thinking 2x12s, but the architect and engineer has to design that. And it's important, the county did tell us when we met with the preliminary, they want us to come out the upstairs onto that deck at the same level. They don't want any risers up or down.
But there's gonna be a slope on it, like 8
Yeah,
inches.
the slope they don't care about, they don't want to,
Yeah.
they don't want to trip hazard. 3
No,
inches, 4 inches.
it's accessibility for public, yeah.
Yeah.
Half-inch maximum.
And that is a door on the patio level?
Yes, you'll be able to go from the inside, the current inside, out to that deck.
It's not an accessible area. Can't get up there.
It's just for decoration.
No.
Hey, my college dorm had an accessible bathroom down 2 flights of stairs in a basement, so just because the county says so, you gotta do. I mean, that, I don't know, that trim piece also looks out of proportion. It's a lot, I mean,
The band board.
yeah, and I was gonna call it ledger, but I knew that wasn't quite right.
Can you find that code, the reference in the, about the balconies that Brian was referencing?
Yeah.
Let's get past that first, if we could. Because I think
And
it's,
we're very open to reconfigure it another way, as long as the county says yes, you guys say yes, we can reconfigure it a different
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, and what Brian was saying, so, and I'll find the
Yeah, I
exact,
might have
the
misread it.
exact language, but it does mention, the addition of porches and decks in public right of ways not being recommended.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was.
Picture of the steps we never redid.
Yeah.
I mean, I detail these all the time, these porches over conditioned spaces, and they're a pain. They are a pain.
The rooftop ones.
Mm-hmm.
In what sense?
Just leaks,
Or-
you know, because you're relying on a TPO membrane that's underneath
Yeah.
something, not the leak, dry rot.
Right.
And then you're gonna be chasing leaks into the building. People are walking on top of it. If there's movement, right? So it's like, it's just not a,
Next time I'll come with citations.
if it wasn't over a conditioned space, it'd be a different scenario, but it's over a conditioned space.
It says new decks are approved on case-by-case basis, as long as they don't take away from its original historic character of the building and are located at the rear or side elevation, not visible from a public right of way.
Yeah, so that's the part that got me, is it's not visible from a public right of way, and this will be visible from 4 rights of way. So I don't know.
And we do not have any other instances within the town that would serve as a precedent.
Yeah.
I don't think so. The closest would probably, and it, I don't know, it might have always been there, the closest is probably that deck on top of your one building here on Main Street. But, I don't know, that might have always been a balcony, I don't know.
That was always a balcony, it was a covered balcony. But the membrane we put down on that, Chad, the technology has come so far, I was agreeing with you, I'll never do that. It's nightmare, but the technology has come so far, we've had 0 problems with the roofing we put on. We've been using it now for 6 years, and it'll very, very durable. Not to say it eventually won't go bad, but
Yeah.
Well, everything goes bad at some point.
I mean, snow's sitting on there, it doesn't snow in Maryland anymore, but.
Did this winter.
I shovel. I've been shoveling my roof for years.
Your roof?
Yeah, when it snows a
Oh,
lot,
yeah.
I go on and
Yeah.
I move the snow.
That sounds safe.
Yeah, well, did I?
Yeah, and I guess it also comes down to, and could be splitting hairs, but whether or not the terrace is, you know, a porch, or I guess it's a deck, but it's not like a standalone porch or deck. But again, it could be splitting hairs, and depends on how you guys interpret it.
I mean, that's how it's being utilized.
Right.
I mean, Fred, you said there was a potential to enclose it. Is that still an option, or is that something that you don't wanna go down that road?
we would, but we'd have to put a roof on top of it, and I think that would be a lot more non-historic if we enclosed it, because it's not gonna look, it's gonna take away, it's gonna be so overbearing, it's gonna take away from the original part of the building. This is gonna be more of a minor addition compared to the original building, where if we put a roof on that thing, it's gonna overpower it, I think. It'll give 24/7 seating up there, even in the dead of winter, but it's gonna overpower it.
Thoughts?
I think if the goal is to leave this original home as intact as possible, this is your best bet. I think when you start introducing that second level roof addition, you're gonna kind of make it a permanent situation.
Yeah, but does this open us up to future applicants looking for roof decks and?
Well, you gotta remember too, the guidelines do expressly say that no one application sets a precedent for another, so everything's evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and that's in the guidelines, so that gives you cover in that sense there.
Gives you cover, but,
Huh?
yeah, I was
I'll-
gonna say.
I do tell,
Not logic.
Yeah,
I tell everyone that when they apply, I tell them, people will ask, you know, it's like, oh, this person did that, so I should be able to do this, and I tell them, you know, no, there's no precedent set, everything's evaluated case-by-case basis. Just because something's appropriate in one case doesn't necessarily it's gonna be appropriate in another. So that certainly does, and again, that is in the guidelines, early on, like right in the introduction.
I hate to ask this question, but did you consider not doing the second floor there? Just doing a first floor? The problem is the roof line still, I mean,
No, you could do it.
you could do the roof line,
You'd have to
yeah,
modify those 2 windows.
right,
They'd have to be like clear story windows.
yeah.
Or you could just do a parapet on the outside edge and drain it.
Yeah, but the whole, I mean, what she was talking about with the flow of this space, it does not work. My kids are always playing on that
Yeah.
damn home, that staircase.
Yeah, I
And
know
the thing is
it's
that-
hard to get out of the second floor.
It's a bottleneck going from the first floor to the second floor. This will give us, and we met with Brian Van Paulson, and we said, at first we weren't gonna do the outside stairs because it's eating too much real estate. And he goes, no, from a fire safety, we wanna see a second egress on that. The business is growing, the occupants are growing, let's put a second means of ingress and egress. Now, he didn't tell us we had to, he said it's a strong suggestion.
And the problem with I'm sorry,
Okay.
with the limit of 49 people, right now, on Sunday, I have up to 7 people working in the kitchen, but we're trying to get the line and not people waiting 45 minutes or an hour for crepes, which is crazy. So if I have more people in the kitchen, then I have to reduce the people upstairs, and in the summer, usually it's during the year I don't have too much trouble, but in the summer, so having this terrace where more customer can sit, because I will have to take down some tables because I have more people in the kitchen to add up to 49. So
The other way of looking at it is, do you provide that egress from the second floor and not make it a balcony? So it still maintains a second means of egress so people can get out, but it eliminates their seating, which just counteracts what she was just talking about.
I mean, it does, but then, to Matt's point, I think if you put a second means of egress up there and then you don't utilize that space, it's almost gonna look more inconsistent. Like you'd have to look more into
I think
putting the
that'll
door
look
on
dumber. It'll
the
look like-
side.
That'll
Yeah.
look like they just added a stairwell after
right.
the fact and
Right, that's what I'm saying, you'd have to move that staircase around to the side as if, you know, the building had been once divided into apartments, rather than have it out the back, because it just wouldn't work. I'm no architect though.
Thank God.
And it would be tough to get you in and out on the sides, because the one side, the handicap ramp is on.
Right,
The other side encroaches into the parking lot, and that would be tough. It's almost, if you're gonna put the second means of ingress and egress, you almost have to do it in the back
right.
to make it work.
Well, I have no idea.
only, so I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but by cutting that elevation, the first one on there on the left, it's hard to gather how the addition goes with the original building. I am venturing to guess that the addition is bulky compared to the skinnier home. And it looks, that's your best case scenario by cutting that home in half. And I think that I think it's just a little bit too deep. I mean, that's my only hold up with it. It just seems to overpower the building now. And so to your point of saying, like, if we're gonna match the building, then it might look a little funny. I
Right.
mean,
What did you say the dimension of the
it's
existing
20
building is?
It was 28 with the 16 addition, so that's more than double. I mean, that's pretty hefty.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, if you turn it, it probably looks more correct, because even though it's longer that way, it looks more like an L on it. So it's, you know, but then,
Doesn't
I
give
com-
her the width.
right, it doesn't give you those two door openings. So I understand, like I said, the business purpose between orienting it that way.
I don't get it.
But
It's my only comment.
I don't know if turning it works.
Yeah.
And then-
Functionally, it makes more sense how they have it.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree, though, it'd be helpful to see the whole elevation with the building and everything.
Well, that is drawn to scale, the architect did do that.
Maybe a plan, so.
Yeah, I know, I just mean to see like the whole cross-section of the building with the addition. It's kind of hard to,
You did that break line right in the middle of it. Because it's the other way too, right?
can you put those together, Kevin? I just hate to push this off.
Well, why don't we make a motion of the items that we would like to see, and we can say that we'll reconvene on this one when we have more information.
I have a question. Are you saying that the addition is too big comparing to the building, is that?
Yeah,
Is that
I think the addition is, what, almost?
432 square feet, the building is 1,500.
Yeah, but it's the
So-
width, so it's the depth of the building with the depth of the addition. So that, because the depth of your building at 28 feet, that's a pretty skinny building footprint, and then you're adding the
16.
16 on.
Right. So you're increasing it by
I'm not-
more than 50%.
I don't know if it is or not, I just don't like that I can't see it
Yeah.
in context of the entire building.
Which shouldn't be any hardship for your architect to come back and,
No, it's just gotta remove the brake line.
yeah, shows the full elevation. And then probably throw, we know the dimensions, but he could throw a dimension on there just for reference.
Because I don't mind the back elevation. It looks-
Now, the back elevation looks compatible.
that's not what What are you trying to do? What do you?
Well, I mean, we're still going back to the public right of way and the balcony. My fear, I know Kevin's already said that each application heard on its own merits, but I think this is potentially setting a precedent for other people that were to come to the town. I know there's other people that spoke to me in the past about adding rooftop decks down here. And I'm like, are we gonna get a slippery slope of, we approve this and then the next person's gonna have
Right,
another deck?
I mean,
Because everyone's got a tight
Yeah, and
space.
if there's a concern about that, I'm more than happy to be clear with any applicant that points to this in the future and says, well, they did it, and why can't I? And I'm more than happy to be the one to tell them that, it's just, there's no precedent set. Just because someone else did it doesn't, and it was approved for one person doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be approved for everybody. It's not your guys' job to jump in front of that train. That's what I'm here for, so. If you're worried about someone getting upset about that, or, I'm happy to be the person that takes that bullet. But by the same token, if someone does come with an application that you guys think makes sense based on context, then.
And then the other thing you gotta look at, the addition is 432 feet. The building is 1550, so that's what, 775? Because you have the offset for the staircase, so when it gets built, it's not gonna be half.
Yeah, we're just looking at proportions though.
Right, but
It's
it's,
775.
it is a little more than half of the first floor, if it's 432 versus 775. So it's a pretty big addition. But, like I said, I get the business purpose. I'm with Matt, I'd like to see the full side elevation. I mean, it is, depending, maybe it'll look fine, but if it doesn't, is there like a conversation around shrinking that in a couple feet or anything? I mean, how does that impact you? Because that's a consideration too, I mean, we have to do
It's
the
hard
architecture.
because in order to add another double griddle, or maybe two,
Mhm.
I have to add more fridge space. Like right now, I go to the grocery store 4 times a week, and I get 2 deliveries in food, 2 deliveries in milk, but yet I still go during the summer, not all year long, but right now it is because I have no space.
Yeah.
So on top of my work, I have to run to the grocery store 3 to 4 times a week. I'm lucky.
Yeah. It's kind of what I was wondering, like, even if it's incompatible, like we don't like the elevation, there might not be a good alternative. I don't know.
Our program requires a certain amount of square footage
I
for
know.
her.
And where I'm coming from, financially, does this make sense? We're buddies, but it doesn't make sense. But to keep a thriving business in town,
Yeah.
it makes 100% sense.
Yeah, I mean, we
That's
don't,
why I don't wanna lose a thriving business to French Twist.
no. I
It's
Who's
mean,
done a really good job, here, close your ears, who's done a really good job of bringing more people in and doing everything we ask of her. And I don't wanna build
Yeah.
it smaller and then a year from now saying, oh, now we gotta build it again. It's
No,
really
right,
not
no,
gonna happen.
really.
but we're thinking into the future. We're thinking 15, 20 years down the line, right? We're not thinking immediate, who the tenant is currently. We're thinking what this building could potentially be in the future. Let's say she leaves and somebody tries to put a bar in there or something, and they try to put a bunch of rowdy people on top of that deck or something in the evening, right? Does public right away, like it just sets a precedent in town for certain things. So I think massing
That's gonna
wise,
be up to the planning commission to say, hey, if she goes
sure,
out of business,
sure.
and we're gonna throw in
Yeah.
live entertainment, I mean, that's up to the zoning board to say, hey, no, this is getting out of hand, and,
mean, the main point of this council is for us to maintain the historic fabric of the town. And so we're trying to make sure all additions and stuff meet the fabric of the town. So if we feel that proportion-wise it doesn't meet the requirements, then we have to make some sort of compromise in some way. Or we have to make an agreement that, you know, we let this one pass or whatever we do. But I just don't want to get down a slippery slope of approving things and then in the future having to approve things just based on
Right. Is that whole back area gonna be kitchen or part kitchen, part seating?
So I will remove the barista, where the espresso machine is,
Mhm.
and that will be a big hallway where people will order there.
Okay.
And it will create a flow instead of going up the steps. So they would come in,
Sure.
and then I will turn. I mean, I've been designing a bunch of stuff, and it's still not right for me. So I have to get back into drawing, but. It's just to create a better flow and add more griddles and add more fridge space.
Yeah.
You worry about how you're gonna work?
I'm always worried about how I'm gonna order.
I guess the only thing I'd say to it is that when we get that elevation, if it looks like it really doesn't belong, I don't actually think it belongs to begin with. Obviously, you wouldn't see this kind of situation on this kind of house. But so then you go maybe a different material. You send it hardy and you send it down a totally different path, like we kind of were making them do at the train station. Then it just makes them have this kind of
Appendage.
obvious addition that when things go away, things change. It's an easy get back to what was originally the home. That's my only point to that.
Yeah, we need to make sure that you guys maintain those punched openings and they're not widened in the inside of the building.
Yeah.
Right, the configuration of what the
We
building
wanna
is.
keep it so we can take the windows back out, put the windows back out without reframing. We're gonna make sure that's all done.
I can also, if you're concerned about the future of this structure, if it were to change tenants or something, I can bring up during the planning commission meeting where we will have to approve the site plan for this addition, and we can discuss the idea of, you know, if the tenant changes or the occupant changes or the use changes, then we reevaluate the use of that terrace space as part of the site plan review.
I mean, we're just going against our guideline though by approving something that says that, you know, public right of way.
Sure,
Not
but
visible.
yeah,
So
I was just trying to address the concern of if
I-
it were to be approved.
I don't make a precedent of us going against our guidelines. I mean, that's not the point of having a historic district commission.
Sure.
But that building where it's sitting, it's visible all the way around.
Yeah, no, that's
Always
Right, that's the tough
that's
part.
the issue.
I know what I'm saying, but it doesn't matter what it's being built because it's gonna be able to be viewed.
No, but if it wasn't a balcony, then we'd probably have less of an issue. We'd still have an issue with scale, but we would have less of an issue because it's a balcony or porch of public right of way.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger issue. You know, if you were putting 2 stories there, however it would tie in, I think you'd run into a lot less pushback because it's not that open kind of deck situation, which is what is against the guidelines.
So you're thinking go back and redesign to make it enclosed, go into the roof line maybe, make it
I don't know,
a L shape?
because
Well-
that changes your whole expense too, so I don't know what's feasible there.
We're gonna have to look at the side elevation, to look at the massing, to look at the proportions. That's the first thing, right? Just to feel comfortable about the size of the addition in the first place. B, we have to make a decision on if this public right of way and this balcony is acceptable per the guidelines. And if it's not, if you feel comfortable about building a second story and enclosing it, maybe even a modification of cutting it back slightly, just so that the massing fits with the proportions of the existing building. So I think there's a couple things, and the elevation, and I would hope also like a floor plan to be sent would help.
Like an interior.
Just generic floor plan of the,
So why we didn't
Just
do
get an
that
outline of the
is,
building.
yeah.
why we didn't do that is, you know, architects obviously are expensive. We didn't wanna go I mean, we're gonna have to go this whole thing drawn, engineer stamp for the Carroll County, but why go through all that if you guys say, we don't wanna do this?
Yeah.
So I say keep it very, very simple to scale.
Yeah.
But don't do interior, because why do interior if the answer is no?
Yeah, but if he has a building built out just to the exterior, that's all we really need, and he should have that already.
Oh, yeah, the exterior is easy.
Yeah, so
It's the interior that
so
we.
just have him do a 4 foot cut,
Yeah, that's.
give us that exterior outline of that building so we
That's a
can
phone
see it
call,
all.
yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, we don't need to know where the griddles are gonna be, but we'll be interested.
Me too, I'd like to.
This is probably okay.
Yeah.
All right, so does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, you can also, if you need more information, doesn't necessarily need to be a motion, you can just request that the applicant provides additional information and the conversation be carried to the next meeting. But whatever, but if you guys would want to make a motion or a determination.
No, I think we're all in agreement, we want a little bit more information. So is that something that you guys can provide to us?
So you want to see the whole building, obviously all 4 sides, that's easy, we'll get the architect to do that. But what else?
Just a generic floor plan.
Just a cut of it, when he does do the whole building, just cut it so that we can see how it lays out in plan,
Interior or exterior?
just exterior,
Exterior.
exterior walls. Just give us an idea of the footprint of the building.
Okay.
And I guess you can have, you can have discussions on your own part if you wanted to maybe rethink reframing the second floor. I don't know if that's something that's viable for you or not, but after hearing our discussion tonight, is that something that,
What we could do is skip the deck altogether and just have the staircase coming down, but I think that's gonna look horrible. That's gonna be like an
Right.
original building with a staircase, especially that size, because the elevation, remember, the first floor, you see that band board down the bottom, the first floor is about 29 to 30 inches taller than that. So that staircase is gonna be a pretty steep staircase coming down. It can't come down in one run, it's gotta go and make a wrap, which is why you see it like that.
yeah.
Code won't require this, you're gonna see this winding staircase coming down, it's not gonna look good.
Well, and then people have to be able to exit, so
Yeah.
they have to have a door.
And you gotta have a door.
You have to have a door. Or have less people sitting inside.
Unfortunately, I think those two parameters of the massing of the building and that guideline public right-of-way view are the things that are kind of hanging us up, unfortunately.
So did you, when we bring up the porch, so are we suggesting, are you thinking that if you created a roof line tied back into the building roof, would you enclose it on all 4 sides? Or do you just want to see a roof above it?
A 3-season room? or-
No, because it's still a porch now.
So you're wanting to see a 2-story structure?
A 2-story
tied in.
structure. But I'm not sure if the massing is correct with that depth, given how big it is.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a hefty amount of work to
And that's a lot of,
kind of not create anything better for the, I know it goes better for our guidelines, but I think it actually goes worse for the building.
'Cause
Right,
if
it
you make that
alters
a
more.
true 2-story, tied into that roof line, that addition is gonna overpower that building, more so than what it is right now.
Sure, especially at 60 feet.
It's gonna way overpower it. We can get the architect to give you a rendering, but it's gonna.
No.
I'll see the full
Yeah.
building and weigh in on it.
Yeah. It should be easy for you guys to just have them provide that full elevation.
If he's working in Revit or CAD and he wants to just change material from the German wood siding to the board and batten too, I think I'd like to see it both ways.
Which other way? We can do it, I mean, we'll build it any way.
Well, both ways, I'd love to see it side by side,
Like a board and bat or a hardy board?
Board and bat.
probably
I think-
board bat, and that's what they're doing on, across from me there now.
Yeah, that's pretty typical of a, as you called it, a shed,
Yeah.
so.
Hardy panel wouldn't look right on that, just a flat panel.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to go with the German lap.
Yeah.
But I think when you introduce that, a full elevation, I think introducing a board and bat situation there will actually probably help the feel of it.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. When we went to the architect, we
Plus,
said
it's
we
a
want
little
to,
cash that way.
we want to put an additional in and have it where it blends in the most possible way. We don't want it to overpower the original building, because that's what the Historical Society is all about.
Right,
And that's what he said, well, let's go and use the same material, but if they want to change it, we will. We have no problem with that.
yeah, I like that idea until I think it kind of is overpowering it and just in size,
Yeah.
volume alone.
And then it becomes an accessory structure on the
Right,
outside,
so
so
then
you
we-
want it to
So then we
be.
change it to making it accessory, kind of to fit them.
So we'll do all four visuals, so you get to see all four.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a rendering of this with the board and battle.
That'd be great.
Okay.
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 That's what we'll do.
That's so stressful.
So I guess we can just make a motion to continue the discussion, with the requested additional information to be provided at the next meeting.
Somebody wanna make that motion?
I'll make a motion to continue discussion on application 2025-09 in our June meeting. It's
Okay.
June next, right?
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
When is the next meeting?
It is
18 or 25.
Don't ask me.
25th of
7:30.
Yeah, 7:30, whatever.
25th of June?
I only beat you by a couple
June
minutes.
25th, Yes.
June 25th.
Okay.
25th, okay.
Mhm.
I'll be in town.
When are you trying to get it built?
We were gonna try.
7
to
years
do it,
ago.
What's another month?
Yeah, we've got some other hurdles to go. PG&E
Yeah, sure.
has easement, we're working with them, and that's a long, long haul. We're trying to get it under roof before winter sets, is what we're trying to do.
Gotcha.
We'll try our best not to hold you up.
Yeah, we're not doing a good job so far. We'll do that. All right.
Okey-dokey, thank you.
Yep.
Right back to the meeting.
Alright, yeah, let's go back to agenda item number 1 for meeting minutes from April 23rd, 2025. Have you guys had a chance to review those minutes? Is there any alterations or modifications required of those meeting minutes? All in favor? Aye, opposed?
Good night.
Minutes
Thank
carried,
you.
thank you,
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good one, Fred.
Alright, Kevin, any town updates?
Not a lot this month, just obviously I'm sure everyone's aware that the streetscaping stuff is a little bit behind schedule now. And now with the rain, it's pushed it back even further. So farmers market will continue to be in the Mac lot behind the French twist for at least a few more weeks until they can get that wrapped up, and then it'll be back to regularly scheduled programming. But yeah, it seems like we are at least a few weeks behind. So.
What about appointment of a town liaison?
Oh, so I was given an indication of which council member that would be, but I haven't gotten confirmation yet, so we'll wait on that. But we are gonna get a new council member, just
Okay.
because, obviously Al didn't run for re-election, so he is no longer on town council. So we will have a new council member, hopefully starting in June,
Okay.
with us. And then we'll go from there.
Okay, anything else? Any violations or anything? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second? Opposed?
Oh, opposed, no.
Alright,
Good work, guys. That was a hearty discussion.
well, we haven't had many of them really.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So I think,
This is the night of a person who's not an architect feeling really out of place.
So I just got to.